Hey everybody, this is Doomhammer here with the draft recap for the NFC South. So let's get to it. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers bring in Eric Kendricks in the first round. We all saw that on the video. Then they also bring in another defensive player, Shane Ray. So middle linebacker, pass rusher, Shaq Mason, the center, Gabe Wright at defensive tackle, Anthony Harris, a free safety, Taylor Fabulage, maybe, offensive tackle, and then a running back in the seventh, Jeremy Langford. So nothing too flashy with this draft. I mean, they do have their quarterback in Blaine Gabbert. He's an 84 overall. People are going to give him crap because he wasn't that great of a quarterback in real life. And even in the game, he's been kind of mid, but he's still at 84 overall, which I think puts him, among active quarterbacks. Yeah, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He's the 14th ranked quarterback in the league. So he's on the upper half, but still not like a top tier. They've got Darren McFadden at running back. Josh Gordon is going to be suspended the entire season because this was the year he was out on that drug policy, despite being an 89 overall superstar wide receiver. So Josh Gordon is as good as he was in real life. And yes, he was really good in real life if it wasn't for all the marijuana stuff. So they have a lot of weapons around them. They got some decent O-line. So this was more about really trying to shore up the defense. So middle linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle, safety, depth. And when we look at what they did in the post-draft signings, they signed Blake Sims, just a quarterback to fill the roster, and Stephen Bowen. So he's a 73 overall defensive end. They still have Mark Anderson on one side, Kawan Short and Tyson Aluwalu in the middle. Gabe Wright is like a 61 overall. Shane Ray on the left side is 68 overall. Will likely be behind Stephen Bowen. So let's go ahead and see some of the feedback from our commentators. Listen, I don't hate it. I don't love it either. But what Vinny, meaning Vinny Testaverde, the new head coach, but what is Vinny doing here? He's building a locker room. No shit. He's building a locker room. Eric Kendricks is the best pick of the bunch. A tackling machine, high IQ guy. Shane Ray is a boom or bust edge rusher, but at least he's disruptive. Shaq Mason, he's going to be Blaine Gabbert's best friend. But here's the issue. This team still lacks star power on the outside. Gabbert's ceiling isn't high, and McFadden can't carry the whole offense forever. B-. Skip Bayless, this is a disaster waiting to happen. I have seen high school teams draft better than this. No, you haven't. You mean to tell me the Buccaneers passed on elite wide receiver talent to take a guard in the third round? Are you kidding me? And Gabe Wright? What has he ever shown? Nothing. Sure, Eric Kendricks is fine, but he's not saving this mess. Blaine Gabbert, the most undependable quarterback in football? No way. And don't even get me started on Anthony Harris in the fifth. Soft. Tampa Bay is going 5-12 max. D+. Stephen A. Smith, this draft is confusing, inconsistent, and borderline reckless. I have no problem with Eric Kendricks. Brother can play. He's got instincts. He's got heart. I like that pick. But what in the name of Derek Brooks is this team doing reaching for Gabe Wright? What is this fascination with building the trenches when your quarterback is Blaine Gabbert? McFadden is a beast, but he can't do it alone. This team needed to surround him with playmakers. Instead, they build a draft class for the 1990s. Grade C. Adam Schefter. From what I'm hearing inside the building, Vinny Testaverde is happy. The Buccaneers went after leadership, toughness, and locker room guys. Kendricks is seen as a day one starter, and Shaq Mason is viewed as a plug-and-play interior guy. Internally, there is optimism about Shane Ray's upside, and the team believes Anthony Harris is a sleeper in the secondary. There are quiet concerns about their long-term quarterback situation, but they believe Gabbert, with McFadden's support and a rebuilt O-line, can manage the system effectively. Value-wise, this is a solid draft. Not spectacular, but solid. The Buccaneers made smart picks at positions of need. Eric Kendricks at 1.14 is a great value. Top 10 talent in my book. Shaq Mason is my number 2 interior lineman in the class, so getting him in the mid third is a steal. Taylor Falujije has upside but needs development. Where I question this draft is at wide receiver and DB. I had higher rated players on my board than Anthony Harris and Jeremy Langford. Still, Vinny's strategy to rebuild the middle of the roster is evident. Then we go to the Atlanta Falcons. So Atlanta Falcons go with Nelson Aguilar at their first round pick. Then Eric Rowe with cornerback. Eli Harold, defensive end. Vince Mailey at wide receiver. John Feliciano at guard. Jake Rogers at tackle. Josh Lambo, a 6th round kicker. Charles Gaines at corner. And then another cornerback, Christian Socoli. Now, again, this is a very kind of meat and potatoes draft there. You've got 2 wide receivers, 3 cornerbacks, 2 offensive linemen, a wide receiver, and a kicker. Now, the Falcons needed some cornerback depth. They did have Tremaine Johnson, Antonio Cromartie, Aaron Colvin, and that was really it. So getting Eric Rowe, getting Gaines and Socoli, just give them more DBs, kind of also going with best player available. Wide receiver, they still have Emmanuel Sanders, Braylon Edwards. They let one of their other receivers go. I have to remember which one it was. Robert Meacham. They let Robert Meacham go. So that's where Nelson Aguilar comes in because, let's see, Braylon Edwards was back in like 2004. So he is 32 years old. Emmanuel Sanders is 28 years old. So they got a 22-year-old Nelson Aguilar. They have a 25-year-old in his 3rd year, Bryce Butler. They brought in PK Sam, but they also bring in Vince Mailey, who's only like 57 overall, but trying to get some more youth in their passing game. They have got some O-line support, more likely to be backups. I mean, Feliciano is a 64 overall, and Jake Rogers is a 63, so both kind of a more backup role. They do sign Billy Cundiff, so Lambeau, I mean, we'll see which one of them comes out of preseason as making the team. And then Ricky Sapp, he is the defensive end signing for them. But when we look at some of the feedback, we got Colin Cowherd saying this draft is what I call adult supervision. It's clean, it's composed, it's calculated. Nelson Aguilar at 123 absolutely fits the mold. Smart, dependable, clean route runner. Peyton Manning will love him. Eric Rowe is a big, versatile corner. He'll fit well in Brad Childress' system that prioritizes discipline over flash. They got 2 receivers, 2 linemen, and even 2 cornerbacks late. That's not a draft. That's a depth chart masterclass. With Garoppolo waiting, this team is threading the needle between present and future. A-. So, Skip, not so convinced. Let me get this straight. This draft is a cover band version of greatness. It hits the notes but misses the soul. If you give Peyton Manning Nelson Aguilar, a guy who drops the ball more than he catches it, that's who's supposed to replace Larry Fitzgerald, I don't buy it. Vince Mailey, Eric Rowe, come on. This defense still can't stop Flacco. And now they're hoping Christian Socoli can somehow be relevant. No. Brad Childress played it safe because he knows his window with Peyton is closing. This is a pathetic draft in disguise. Then you got Stephen A. Smith. This draft is not bad, but it ain't enough. Not with that defense. I ain't mad at Aguilar. Kid's got hands. Well, most of the time. And he's got heart. But with Peyton Manning's arm hanging on by a thread and Garoppolo still in diapers, what are we doing drafting 2 offensive linemen in the 5th? Where is the pass rush? Eli Harold? Okay, but 1 DE isn't going to get it done in this division. You need dogs on defense, not just dudes. Adam Schefter. The Falcons are quietly confident about their long-term trajectory. What I'm hearing out of Flowery Branch is this. Brad Childress sees this class as a transitional bridge. Aguilar is viewed internally as a Manning favorite already. Eric Rowe is expected to compete for starting time early, and they're very high on Joe Feliciano's toughness. Don't be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo takes over sooner than later. And this draft is setting him up with weapons and protection. They're playing chess, not checkers. Checkers. Ugh, jeez. It's been a long day. This was a foundational draft for the post-Peyton Manning era, and they did a decent job with it. Nelson Aguilar, a bit of a reach at 123, but I like the fit with Manning. He's a route technician. Eric Rowe is a value pick. I had him graded early second, so it tracks. Eli Harold gives them athleticism on the edge. They reached a bit for Maley, but double up on fifth-round lineman isn't exciting, but it shows they're building inside out. A kicker and two corners in the 6th and 7th is classic. Throw darts, one might stick. And when I look at my Falcons, I mean, Manning is likely to retire after this year. That's the time he retired in real life. So really, he's got one more chance at it. And then Jimmy Garoppolo will likely take the reins. And so that's kind of giving Nelson Aguilar 1 year of Peyton Manning throwing him the ball before transition to Garoppolo. Le'Veon Bell, he's going to be in his 3rd season at 92 overall. He's a solid running back for them. So really, they're setting themselves up to be competitive long term. So that's kind of how I was looking at this draft. And because they had a very low cap space, I did not expect them to fill up their talent through free agency, and it was more about going through the draft, and I think they are setting themselves up for a pretty good future. Then we got the Panthers going with Eric Flowers in the 1st, Adrian Amos as free safety in the 2nd, Kenny Bell wide receiver. They draft another tackle, T.J. Clemmings, and then Austin Reeder at center. They have James Sample at strong safety, and then Leon Orr at defensive tackle. So we see the 2 left tackles because they didn't have a left tackle. So, yeah, they drafted 2 of them. Austin Reeder is going to be behind J.C. Treader, who moves from guard to center. So he was like a tackle, maybe a guard. Now he's moved inside to where he is in real life, more of that center position. So they get a backup for him. Bell is lucky to see playing time. He's going to be behind T.Y. Hilton, Torrey Smith, Niles Paul. They do have Josh Cooper, but nothing really special there. When we look at who they signed, they had some cap space, so they were able to pick up some people. They do get Ryan Mallett to be the backup behind Joe Flacco, so Mallett never really getting a real starting job opportunity. But really the biggest thing in their offseason was keeping Joe Flacco, because he didn't take their offer, so he was headed toward free agency. And I thought he was going to go somewhere else, but he chose to come back. So I'm debating whether I treat that as a disgruntled, like he didn't have a better offer. So I could possibly trade Joe Flacco this season if I decide like the Panthers aren't winning, or there's kind of conflict I want to drum up. So we'll see if maybe Ryan Mallett challenges for the starting job. If I believe Ryan Mallett could take over, maybe they decide to part ways with Flacco. But they do sign Sean Hickey, Chris Hairston, who is likely to be their starter, Tyrell Johnson at safety, because they did need some defensive backup after losing both their key safeties. They lost Daniel Manning, they lost Michael Huff, so now they got Tyrell Johnson, a 68 overall strong safety. Adrian Amos is 69 overall, probably will be their starter. They got Anthony Spencer and then Bryce Hager. Let's get to the commentators. Coward goes, this draft feels like a marriage after couples therapy. It's functional, but is anyone really happy? They drafted Eric Flowers to protect Joe Flacco, which tells me they are committed, at least temporarily. Adrian Amos in the 2nd, love that pick. Kid's instinctive and smart. T.J. Clemmings and Austin Reeder, more trench help. But there's no juice, no game changer. This feels like a team saying, we're not rebuilding, we're recovering the couch. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Skip Bayless. This is a desperate draft by a desperate franchise with a quarterback who didn't even want to be there. Eric Flowers, you took a turnstile and put him on the blind side of Joe Flacco, the slowest quarterback in the NFL. T.J. Clemmings was supposed to be the steal of the draft in 2015. Instead, he's a penalty machine. And let's talk about the wide receiver, Kenny Bell. Kenny Bell is your answer at wide receiver 3 in the NFC South. The Panthers didn't just whiff, they drafted like a team that already gave up. Then we got Stephen A. Smith. Let me tell you something right now. This draft is more confusing than Joe Flacco's facial expressions. I respect Eric Flowers. He's a big boy, and he'll move people. But he ain't protecting Joe Flacco from the Saints, Bucks, or Falcons edge rushers. Adrian Amos, a bright spot. I'll give them that. But I don't trust this offense. Kenny Bell, what's he doing in the 3rd round? James Sample in the 6th. The man hits like a truck, but can't cover a toddler in a ball pit. This was a messy draft for a team with no identity. Schefter here. The Panthers were bracing for a full reset. This draft was damage control. What I'm hearing out of the Carolina front office is that Flacco nearly walked after contract disputes. And the team made this draft about infrastructure. 3 linemen, Flowers, Clemmings, and Reeder. Show they're trying to rebuild from the inside out. They liked Amos early in the process and had him high on their safety board. But the wide receiver group, not inspiring. There's internal frustration that no trade-up happened for an offensive weapon. Then we got Kuiper. I called this a trench-heavy draft on day 3, and I still feel that way. You take Eric Flowers in the 1st, you're banking on upside, and he has it. But the technique needs serious refinement. I like Adrian Amos at 2.18. Great pick there. Very good coverage. Kenny Bell a bit early. TJ Clemmings in the 4th is solid value, though I expected more aggression on offense, especially if Flacco is staying. Leon Orr in the 7th could be a sleeper at DT. Overall, safe, a little boring, but logical. Now we've got the Saints. And yes, that's Cameron Irving, not the defensive end. He's a center, but well, he's a versatile offensive lineman. I know during the draft he was always, they said how great he would be because he could play any position on the O-line. So the Saints are going to give him a try. They drafted him a bit high, so 104, but this is Pat Shurmur, so I was trying to give it some realism of him not being that great at drafting. Then you got Eddie Goldman, defensive tackle. They go back on offensive line with a center, Hronis Grasu, Kyle Emanuel, linebacker, Darren Smith, free safety, Terry Poole, offensive guard, and then they go with Sam Ficken and then Brett Boyko. This was a team that had no center and like 1 guard. So they needed a lot of support there on the offensive line, and so they do get that. Cameron Irving actually did get a boost during the when I did the progression tool. If you don't know what the progression tool is, it's a great little thing in the Madden franchise tool, the My Franchise tool, that helps kind of play around with progression that's more realistic or adds more randomness. So he's up to a 76 overall. He's going to be a right guard. Gino Gradkowski is someone that's going to be their center. Grasu is a backup there. He might have a chance to start. But they needed some O-line depth, and they got that with these picks. When we look at the draft itself, or the post-draft, they sign Justin Medlock as kicker. Medlock is like a mid-70s, but he has like 68 kick power. So he doesn't kick very well at all. He's a 78 overall, excuse me. So he's accurate, but just can't kick far. And then they bring in Keonta Dawson at outside linebacker. To kind of fill their roster. So Colin Cowherd, this draft is like buying tires for a car with engine trouble. It might help, but it won't get you far. Cameron Irving at 104? Listen, I like offensive line versatility, but that's rich. Eddie Goldman is a solid nose, fine. Grasu and Poole add bodies up front, but where's the sizzle? Where's the alpha? This team doesn't have a quarterback solution, doesn't have a pass rush, and it drafted like they were 1 guard away from a Super Bowl. Pat Shurmur needed a spark. This is just a glow stick. So they have Drew Brees and Geno Smith. That's what he's talking about with the quarterback situation. So aging Drew Brees, and then kind of a mediocre first-round prospect in Geno Smith, who hasn't really lived up to the hype. Then we're going to move on to Skip Bayless, who gave him a D. I'm sorry, but this is the most forgettable draft I've ever seen. I had to double check if this was a pro day or a paper shredder. Cameron Irving has been manhandled by quick edge rushers since college. Eddie Goldman, he'll plug a gap, but he's not a game changer. Hronis Grasu, come on. His team couldn't even get consistent snaps out of him. And Sam Ficken, I need a kicker named Ficken to win games in the Superdome now? This isn't a rebuild. This is a team buying clearance bin parts and hoping Drew Brees' arm isn't dust. Then with all due respect, and I say this as a man who once believed in Geno Smith, this draft does nothing to fix the Saints' problems. Cameron Irving is not a top 5 talent. Not this draft, not in any draft. You pass on weapons, corners, edge rushers for a versatile lineman. Eddie Goldman? All right. But there's no wide receiver, no cornerback, no spark plug on either side of the ball. The Saints are in a quarterback crisis, a coaching crisis, and now a draft identity crisis. And Pat Shurmur is drafting like this team has time. He's out of time. Then Schefter comes in. The Saints focused on depth, durability, and culture, but fans wanted fireworks. What I'm hearing out of the Saints front office is they've doubled down on the trenches to help whichever quarterback starts week 1, and that's still up in the air. Irving gives them positional flexibility. Goldman adds strength. Emmanuel and Smith were mid-round targets, but there was internal debate about taking a receiver early. That might haunt them. Don't expect an offensive explosion, but the line should look better. Now, I'll actually explain this. The reason why I didn't draft a wide receiver is because they drafted 2 of them last year. They drafted Sammy Watkins in the first. They drafted Paul Richardson shortly after. They signed Jacoby Jones from the Buffalo Bills, who was their not league leading, but I think he was like top 5, top 10 maybe one year. But he was the Buffalo Bills leading receiver. They have Deion Butler, who is a speed machine from the Atlanta Falcons. Mark Mariani, and Ace Sanders. So they were set at wide receiver. They signed Charles Clay, who was like a league-leading receiver tight end, 72 overall from the Bengals. So they did have receiving options. They just had no offensive line. Like, literally no players. So that's why I went more O-line with them. But anyway, we'll go back to Mel Kiper's opinion. If you want trench toughness, this is your draft. If you want star power, look elsewhere. I had Cameron Irving graded as a late first, not a top 5 guy. But I'll give them this. He's got versatility. Goldman at DT, excellent fit. Grasu has starting potential, though injury history concerns me. Kyle Emmanuel is a developmental guy. Darren Smith, ball hawk, but undersized. Boyko and Poole are depth. I like the structure of this draft, but not the value. Saints played it safe in a year where they needed bold. So here we have the reviews. Skip Bayless just absolutely not happy with the NFC South here with a C- as his best. We see the only A given out was Colin Cowherd to the Atlanta Falcons. And then the lowest was Skip Bayless giving some D's out. So yeah, this is the summary draft of the NFC South. So let me know what your grade is, what you think of these drafts, if you liked them, hated them. And I do want to point out, a lot of these drafts that you've seen, there's a lot of times you're looking at these drafts going, well, are any of them that good? But let's look at real life. How many times does a team just slay it in their draft? Some do. Every so often, you might have one drafting team that just nails it, like the Seahawks with the Legion of Boom, the Sherman and Chancellor, but there's a lot of players that are drafted that don't ever amount to anything. So when I'm drafting for 32 teams, it's sometimes hard to give one team a perfect draft. So it's interesting to see whether these late round picks and mediocre picks or draft busts actually turn into them. Because right now, Cam Irving is a 76 overall, and I think he's got like some depth traits. So actually, every guard is... All 3 guards they drafted somehow have a depth trait, so I don't know how that happened. Unless they were just doing it for all the rookies, but I don't think that's... Let me double check here. Maybe they were for all the rookies, but the point is, 76 overall guard, I'll take that. And so Cameron Irving could actually turn out to be very good for the New Orleans Saints. But thanks for watching. Leave a like if you like these videos. Subscribe to the channel if you like this journey. I had mentioned in my Discord, my plan for this coming season is because even though we're in the late June, Madden 26 is going to be out probably in mid-August. there's no way I'm going to finish an entire season by the end of this year because my schedule is just really crazy. And I want to make sure I really enjoy logging in and playing the game itself. Good way of kind of having my zen and relaxing. So what I might just do is finish up some videos, maybe come up with some fun videos for you all. Like if you want to learn about like some retired players and what their hit legacy is, or maybe some draft recaps, like the 2003 draft revisited, and you get to see how they all did. So I might do some fun videos in between then. Maybe do the position battles for the quarterback. So there's several position battles taking place, even in this division. So we got the Saints that are having their Drew Brees versus Geno Smith. So I might have some of those up until Madden 26 comes out. And then I'll wait for the Madden modding community to kind of do their thing. But right now, I've been really, there's a tool that they have where you can transfer a Madden roster from one Madden to the next. If that tool gets updated from Madden 25 to Madden 26, that allows me to transfer this roster to Madden 26, and it'll be the start of the season, and I'm just going to go with it. So that's the plan. I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, more videos to come.